House to Home, presented by RE/MAX Diamond Realty.
Good day, everybody, and welcome to House to Home. No guest this week, which means Liz and Gina are basically going to school you and probably grill me on things that have happened. But we're staying with the public policy tip, ladies. So, day, and good to see you as always.
Good to see you, Jason.
Okay, I know there have been not one, not two, not even three, but no fewer than 4 pieces of legislation that have been introduced, which, ladies, I know you were kind of concerned about because of the ramifications they have on your business and your industry. So, Liz, can you maybe lay out and give some context about exactly what these are?
Well, there are 4 bills that were introduced by Senator Biscoe, and they're bill number 404-35, 405, 46, and 47.
Let me go and bring those up for you.
So we're really concerned that one of them at least points out the parental subdivision. So for example, there are already laws in the books that allow for parental subdivision. And so if I had a piece of land that was big enough that I could subdivide, and it's located, let's say in Jigo in the northern area, there are laws about protection of the northern aquifer. Mm-hmm. So one way to get around that, of course, is to do a parental subdivision so I could give one of my kids a portion of that property. Now, of course, land on Guam is getting scarce these days, and land is important for our people. So a way to hand off some property is to do a parental subdivision. And that way you could give a piece of land to your child or your children by developing parental subdivisions. Now, of course, there are already laws in the books that affect septic tanks and sewer, depending on the proximity of the property. If sewer is not available, you could probably do a septic tank, but there are guidelines governing that, as well as if a sewer line is close. But going back to parental subdivision, if some of these laws are passed, then it'll be difficult for me to do a parental subdivision. I think Gina said that she knows how some of this had come about, which is it kind of bypasses our locals' ability to give property to our children. Of course, again, I want to emphasize that there are guidelines. So if I gave a piece of property to my son, for example, he has to hang on to that property for like 5 years before he can do anything with it, or he can't even sell it. So Gina, you may want to elaborate on what your thoughts are as to what you think, how this particular legislation may have come about.
And I beg your pardon, Gina, if I can just interject, because the two of you have informed and educated our audience, which includes me over the years, that Jigo is kind of like the one village where it has the asterisk, because when you do land development, because of the environmental considerations of our northern aquifer, Jigo's always the one that always has these additional stipulations, correct?
Well, not necessarily Jigo, because there is a map that shows from Jigo all the way through wherever the aquifer is shown, then there are guidelines regarding that particular location.
It starts in Manila. So if you take the island, you draw a line from Chalampago across, just go straight across, you end up in PD. So from PD, Chalampago, so both sides of the island, up north, that's all over what they call the water land table. So they basically dig wells in those areas, and they use that area. That's where majority of the water wells are located. So then the EPA regulation says, if you're going to build in that area, in what's over the water land table, you have to have a half-acre lot if the sewer is not in that area.
I'll tell you what, here's a map of Guam right now, since you guys are talking about it. And so that is a substantial portion of the island that is affected by this, public policy yet to be formed, yet to be approved.
So there's already policies in place to protect the water land table. What this law is intended to address is that the parental subdivision law says, I am mom and I own a half-acre lot. So if I own it over this northern area from Chalampago, PD up north, and I want to take my half-acre lot and cut it into two so I could give it to my son and my other son, the law says as a parent, I can do that. I can keep one and give one away to my child, and they will still be allowed to build. They can't sell, but they can build. And I have one more other comment before I get further into that. What I want to know is, with the business industry dying, bleeding,
Here she goes.
with our patients in the hospital dying by the day, and I'm starting to question what the hospital is doing or not doing, this bill was placed into the dockets in September. Don't we have more pressing things to address right now? Anyway, I'm off the bandwagon. So back to the parental
You sure about
subdivision.
that?
Go.
At least for the
We
moment.
want to mention also, wait a minute, we want to also mention that today there was a hearing. Now, bear in mind our situation with COVID, and what was today's hearing about? What was today's hearing about?
Environmental issues, saving
And
the
it-
ocean, saving the environment,
the
not
ocean.
using plastic bags. I mean, that's just
Bags.
my take on it, but
So,
anyway.
I mean,
So now let's focus on people, because that's really what we're concerned about, is our community, our citizens, and their ability to use their property. So as mom, and I want to give my property, basically this law was designed so that you cannot, like if my son wanted to build on that lot now and it's only a 1/4 acre, he won't be able to do it if the sewer line's not in there. So it's specifically 404-35 is specifically to prevent them from using a septic tank. Okay, so my question,
here it is
if
once
you
more.
want to do something, if you want to do something proactive to help the community, why isn't this bill saying GWA start laying sewer lines? Because the community, an individual homeowner, is not going to be, you can't afford to do this. Shoots, you can't even afford to lay water lines so that you can build on your own lot. And that is adding to the cost of housing here in Guam. Is the cost of putting in the infrastructure is so darn high that families who do, they're land rich, but they don't have the means to put in water lines and sewer lines. So now all this bill does is it prevents families. Earlier, I think Liz and I were talking about, well, what was this a reaction to? And my gut says this is a reaction to some of the developers/contractors who have been buying up north, because, there's a large percentage of our community wants to live from Dedido up.
Mhm.
They love Dedido, Jigo. I mean, okay, that's fantastic.
Where I was born and raised.
Yeah, but what's happened is some of these developers, of course, they figure that out, right? So they're buying these agricultural zone lots and they're subdividing them using the parental subdivision law. And they're creating now 2 properties, and they can legally build on both and keep one, because the law says you can't sell it for up to 5 years. So they're legally building on them. They sell one and keep the other as a rental. And I suspect that this law, that there's something to do with that. But listen, don't penalize the whole community.
community,
Because some
exactly.
people are utilizing the law in a way that it wasn't the true intent of the law. Penalize the people that are doing that, or better yet, put in the infrastructure, develop some kind, do a bill that sets up a public-private partnership where it says, if you're going to build in a certain area and you want to do a parental and you can't afford to do it, and you can show that you're going to, by bringing in the sewer line, you're going to have X number of houses in this area, that the government will participate with you. But don't penalize the whole entire community and all me moms and Liz mom and you pop. No, Jason, you're not a pop. But don't
No such luck here.
Penalize us.
Yeah,
Yes.
don't penalize
Okay, no,
mom
and
and
I think that's an absolutely fair argument to make. Now, and as we close, I would like to say, what would you say to the counter argument, which is, if I was a developer or I was a someone who is buying up this land, and I would say, you know, it's fair business. It's the capitalist model and everything like that. I'm allowed to do this within as the law provides, and if I do acquire the land and everything, I should be able to subdivide it as I see fit because I own it.
Not
Saying,
as
how would you
see
respond to that
fit.
counter argument?
Jace, I agree. Not as you see fit in accordance with the law. And here's the big catch of the day, right? Okay. I am encouraging these developers to build. Why? Who are they selling these homes to? They're selling it to our local folks in our community. And the more, you know, the more we increase expenses by doing stuff like this law, all of it, the only thing this is going to accomplish is it's going to knock mom and dad out of the equation of being able to pass on land to their kids. I mean, some of it, but it's going to increase cost, which means our already high home costs here in Guam will get even higher. That's
okay.
what it's
So the larger macro effect is this is going to hurt the system in the aggregate, while the individual profits. I see.
It limits their ability to use the property. It limits their ability to use it because what's the point if their son cannot build their home because there's no sewer, or they prohibit you from even putting a septic tank on it? So, I mean, there are 4 bills here. I would recommend people read these bills because here's the catch. There are already laws in place. So when you're compounding that by adding more laws to prohibit the use of your property, who are you serving? And senators, you got to start looking at the community to see, are you helping? Are you making a difference? Or are you taking away from our ability to make things happen for our families? So there's too many things happening now.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what,
but hurt the people. You're saving the trees, you're saving the water, but you're hurting the people.
That's an interesting analogy. And tell you what, in the interest of fairness, let's try for next week to get somebody to actually, hopefully we can get Senator Regine Biscoe-Lee to come on and say in her own words, you know, her motivations behind introducing this legislation, or let's maybe get a developer and hear their side of it, if that would be okay with the 2 of you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, and Gina, I love that even though you've got a virtual background over your right shoulder, the RE/MAX hustle, you saw it evidenced here today. That these two do the hustle. Okay, we're going to talk about dancing now, so apparently we're going to end this. Okay, nice, Liz. We're going to end this segment. So ladies, thank you so much for introducing us to another interesting aspect of Guam real estate. I'm Jason Salas. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Okay, Gina, take us out with the hustle. There you go. Okay. See you next time, everybody.